got one for you. You brought up the Viper Room. Here's another one to add to your list: the Hollywood Vampires.
They were next out of my mouth. I love it. This is why we bring people on, folks. They're smart people.
Hi, this is AJ Laird with the Over Our Head Players. You're listening to the All Over the Place podcast, where the fun sanity never ends.
Hello and welcome back to the All Over the Place podcast. I'm your host, Eric Porvoznik, and we have got yet another hot show going on tonight, folks. Today, this morning, whatever time of the day you're watching, it doesn't matter. That's right, my good friend Eddie from Iron Maiden is here. Got to see the Future Past tour in the last week, and the ear's still ringing a little bit, but that's a good thing because we are a music-based Threefer show. We've got a music-based guest today, and as always, we've got Jim Culver. Hello, Jim.
Hey, how are you?
As I mentioned, ears still ringing, life is good, and as people who are watching, you can kind of get a hint as to where we're going. But first things first, because we've got a second-time member of the All Over the Place family. Welcome back to the show from the K-Tel All-Stars, Jeffrey Bryan. Hello, Jeffrey. How are you?
Hey, guys. I'm good.
And thanks again for joining us here. And since you were last on the show, I and Christine have had the opportunity to see you here.
That's right. And it was great to see you in an audience. It was great. I love that you were there. Thank you.
Well, we had a fun. Well, thank you for getting us in there, and it was a fun time down in Scottsdale. And you're going to be coming back to the desert. So just for our All Over the Place audience, give us an update as to what's going on with the K-Tel All Stars.
Yeah, we've got we're doing I guess you could call it a tour of Scottsdale areas in the Phoenix area. We're going to be in, here, I'll just pull them up. We're going to be at the Cottonwood Country Club on October 29th. And then October 30th, we're at the Wickenburg Ranch Club. I guess that's a Wickenburg Ranch. I don't know. I haven't been there. And then we're on October 31st, during the day, we're playing at the Mesa Arts Center. I think that's a free show. It's open to the public, and we go on at 12:30. Quickly, I'll get through this. And then November 1st, we're at the Pebble Creek Renaissance Theater, which is a beautiful theater. And we're going to be doing our full media show, which you haven't seen yet, that you guys haven't come down and seen. You saw the more rock show, but we also do a more media-based show that we do in Vegas. And then on November 2nd, we're at the Corte Bella Country Club in Sun City. I guess that's in Sun City West. And then one more. And then let me just pull it up here. I'm blind as a bat. We're in Goodyear, Arizona on no, that's wrong. We're in Queen Creek, Arizona on November 3rd at the Encantera Country Club. So
nice. You're covering all areas here outside in the Phoenix Metro. I love it. And Christine and I hopefully be able to make it to multiple ones. Especially want to see that multimedia show. I'm looking forward to that. And folks, having seen them, they rock. They have so much fun up there on the stage. And to check it out. All the dates you can get over at K-Tel All Stars. Let me pull that back up right now over there, and I'll keep the ticker rolling there for you. But I forgot about the Queen Creek one. But for the Wickenburg show, bring your cowboy boots. That's all I'll say. You can figure out the rest from there.
Yeah, I think that's an outdoor theater too. So
okay, and I do a little umping out there. It's a nice little hike for me. But yeah, bring the cowboy boots. Put on your shit kickers and kick some shit.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of cows around, I think.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. When the last game I did out in that area, there was a cow crossing warning that I got from the school that I was going to umpire. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, there were no cows that got in my way, so I left. I had a little time to go to the local watering hole before the game. So,
well, that's good. You were not beef blocked.
No, I was not. I was not done. Where's the beef? Not in front of me.
Not in front of you, hopefully.
Yeah. Good thing, because the stakes were very high.
Yeah. Oh, bump. That was worse than mine.
I'll work that in. We'll sound effects that one later for you, Jim. So, and again, folks, make sure you check out the K-Tel All-Stars when they're in your area. And the Vegas residency is still going on when you guys aren't doing these little getaways, right?
Well, first of all, Eric, thank you for giving us a plug like that. No, we're done with the Vegas thing for temporarily.
Okay.
We were at the Oyo Casino, which is next door to the Tropicana, which they just imploded.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not there currently. And that ended. Excuse me, man, this coffee. What's going on here? And but we will let you know when we're back in Vegas, because that's definitely a thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, more reasons to get out there and hit as many shows in the Phoenix area as possible. So people are having a good time, folks. All ages.
I don't know what's going on, but our agent is just having a field day in the Phoenix area for us. And we're not unhappy with it. We're back in March. I think there's a couple dates, and I told you about November, but there's some other stuff. I mean, we're just back. There's just seemingly a never ending places for us to play in Arizona right now. So we're loving it.
It's a phenomenal nostalgia trip, folks. And I was checking out the website, and you've got members of Rare Earth and the Raspberries giving accolades to the show. So make sure you come check them out. Get on the dance floor, get your groove thing going on. Fun times. Yeah,
you're going to hear songs you just don't hear anymore. Live, that is.
Let
me be clear about that. Yeah, you might hear them on movies, you might hear them in your records, but yeah, people aren't playing these songs. They're gems. They're beautiful, beautiful pieces of pop artwork that need to be played. They need to stay alive. So,
and I'm looking forward to seeing the multimedia show too. So I got to circle that one on the calendar for that whichever part of town that was in. So yes,
I'll send you some information. You can choose which one. I think there's more than one, but I know the Pebble Creek one is a big, beautiful theater, and it will be full multimedia driven, the way we do our show.
Right.
I think what you saw, we were playing at Casino Arizona when you guys came down, and that obviously we didn't do any multimedia for that. So what you saw was a rock show, which is totally fine, but there's more too with the show. It just, we weren't able to do it.
Well, like I said, I'm definitely looking forward to that. So the Pebble Creek will be at that one. So marking that off on the calendar. No umping that night. Boom. Got it.
Yeah. Good. I'm looking forward to that. Okay.
So and folks, again, make sure you check it out. I'm going to keep that ticker scrolling there. And but we've brought Jeffrey on, being a musician, and us being a music centric show more often than not.
I've been called worse.
Not here. For the record, not here. But we are going to be talking today about supergroups, which was a bigger thing in the 70s and the 80s. And but, there's some resuscitating now, and it may be on our Threefer list. It may not. But we're going to kick things off with Jeffrey. Go at first and give us our Threefer countdown. Go with, if you want to go 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1, to you for the first selection.
The Yardbirds.
Very nice.
I mean, these guys were, from different bands, obviously. And come on. I mean, it's the beginning, the genesis of everything. Eric Clapton. And I mean, it's just, to me, the best of the best.
From Clapton to Beck to Page, then the Yardbirds become the new Yardbirds. Then we get Zeppelin. It all comes full circle.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, definitely.
To me, it feels very, and now to use the word Genesis in the way it's meant, it feels like a genesis of, not Genesis, but it just feels like where a lot of, I think a lot of prog bands and a lot of rock bands started becoming more, the more creative. And I think that was the beginning of that, starting in possibly, with the Yardbirds and guys like that went on. I mean, they went on to create even other bands like Traffic and, things like that. But, but anyway, I'm going with that.
Yeah, that just seemed like everyone went from the Yardbirds.
I mean, does that count as I mean, to me, that counts as a super group because they were in such formidable other acts.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you're classifying as a super group.
I never thought of them that way, but we're talking about it. I would I'm good with it.
I'm just trying to stay chronological. That's just me. I'm thinking starting with foundational stuff and then I'm moving up.
I like it. So Jim, do you want to do a retweak? as we
Now
did
that I officially understand the assignment, yes, I'm gonna go rework my list a little bit, and I'm gonna say for number 3, Journey, because that was comprised of members from Santana, Steve Miller Band,
The
other bands
Babies.
from other excellent bands from the 70s, and
So
they came together and just made I think the most epic arena rock band in history. I love Journey.
that's probably true.
Yeah, just about every song they made is a banger in my book, and they just really kind of defined that era of arena rock. They were fantastic. So that's my number 3.
I like it. And the Babies getting in there. The K-Tel All Stars doing some baby songs, I'm sure.
We actually don't.
Oh.
Not because we don't want to, but remember, we're a 5-piece band. We play everything with no tracks, and a lot of their sound had 3 girls, backup singers.
That's
you know,
true.
so it's kind of difficult to reproduce that. Although we do an ABBA song, so I don't know. We'll get to it. There's a couple baby songs we've been throwing around that I definitely want to get to.
I wouldn't mind hearing "Isn't It Time," but that's my first baby request. So
yeah, well, it's a little deeper, but yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, for me,
okay, you're on.
As with any music topic, this was tough for me, and I've got a long list of honorable mentions. But I will start out. I will do my best to have a number 3, and it was one that you brought up earlier, Jeffrey. Asia, because you had John Wetton and Jeffrey Downs and Carl Palmer and
John Payne,
and all these guys coming from King Crimson and and just Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and 1982, that debut album, perfect. And
it was a perfect record.
Second one, still had some great stuff on it. But I was so glad. Then they faded away, as most supergroups do. They'll break up. They go back to their other projects and everything. But when they came back, 25, 30 years later with the XXX album, brought back everybody before John Wetton passed away.
You were a lot more hardcore fan.
It was just like going back and listening to the first album. It very easily could have fit into that early mid-'80s stuff.
There was something very, very, very iconic about that first record that struck a chord, no pun intended, just the right way. It was written and produced just sometimes things just fall into place, and that was just an undeniably classic sound immediately right out the gate. So I'm with you on that one.
And for somebody who's not too proggy, although I've come to appreciate prog more,
it's pop prog.
Yeah, and that exactly right, because yes, Genesis, King Crimson, okay, the early years, but when 90125, my favorite Yes album, Genesis, and Abacab, my 2 favorite Genesis albums. So a little bit of longer songs, but then that pop.
Yeah.
And Asia hit just right. I was 12 years old. MTV going on, good times. That's my number 3. So Jeffrey, over to you for your number 2 pick.
Can I go to my number 1, because you guys are going to steal my thunder? I just know it.
Go right. This is all over the place. We'll make it a Tarantino movie.
We might just steal it anyway. That's just how we roll around here.
I'm just going to list my next one. My next one it's undoubtedly. Is that a word? Doubtably? Indubitably, the Traveling Wilburys. The best of the best of the best. Obviously, we miss Tom Petty and Roy Orbison and George Harrison. But, I mean, you have Dylan. You have Jeff Lynne. That just kind of defines supergroup to me. Period.
And you brought Traffic earlier.
The most iconic things.
Yeah, Jim Keltner on drums from Traffic.
Oh, and right. I mean, you cannot have a conversation about supergroups and not mention the Traveling Wilburys. I have a friend of mine. A friend of mine is actually in a Traveling Wilbury tribute band.
Man, that's a lot of harmonies going on.
I have yet to see them live, but they're fantastic musicians. I'll pull up their name in a little while, because I shouldn't say that without mentioning their name, but I don't know what they're calling.
We'll give them a plug. We'll fit it in post.
But anyway, they're just amazing, and they're amazing musicians. But what a daunting task to have to try to reproduce, not just great material, but 5 geniuses.
Well, so. I'm just curious. Do they call themselves Volume 2?
Yeah, right. That would be funny, right? It would be apropos, but no.
Well, this is a precursor, folks. I'll be bringing that up a little bit later in a different way. But Jim, over to you for whatever selection you want to go. Your second or your first pick?
All right, my number 2 is I kind of have to go with this one because it's one of my favorite bands, so it's kind of a personal bias. I really think it's an early 2000s group that I really think was the last great supergroup before the concept kind of went by the wayside. And that is Angels and Airwaves, the brainchild of Tom DeLonge from Blink-182. And so it's got, obviously him from Blink-182. He pulled in band members from Nine Inch Nails, Offspring, all these bands that sound nothing alike, have nothing in common, and just pulled all this random talent together and just came up with this amazing band that mixes pop, punk, U2 style guitar licks, and just all this disparate stuff, and just came out with this amazing sound. Makes these long epic songs. There's really nothing else out like it right now, and it's just a fantastic band in my opinion. You could tell he was kind of indulging himself a little bit on some of the talent he pulled in, because he could kind of play with whatever he wanted. Even on the self-titled album, they even pulled in Robert Smith of The Cure and made a couple of songs that just sounded like The Cure in the early 2000s, and it was awesome. So yeah, I love Angels and Airwaves, and I wish we had more of those kinds of super groups these days, but yeah, got to include them as my number 2.
Well, we kind of do, not those genres, but my number 2 pick is going to be actually this guy. You lose track with Sammy Hagar, the amount of super groups that guy's been in, going back to Hagar, Schoen, Aronson, and Tree with HSAS, going way back. But I love Chickenfoot. I made the joke earlier with Traveling Wilburys. Their first album was Traveling Wilburys. Their second album was Volume 3. Chickenfoot did the same silly thing with their 2 albums they've had out so far. But you got Sammy Hagar, one of the greatest voices, Michael Anthony, of course, Van Halen, Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers, and Joe Satriani. And, when Chad Smith had to step aside and go back to the Chili Peppers, Kenny Aronoff from countless bands, most famously for me with Mellencamp. But I love Chickenfoot. Those guys can just lay down a fun funk and rock, and they can do it all.
That's an interesting choice, because they were not a very radio friendly band. They were more of a touring band that people, they that type of thing, where people were like drawn to their live shows because of Hagar and in what he does.
Definitely.
Yeah, interesting choice. I'm having trouble coming up with a third that I consider amazing.
Well, I've got a huge list of honorable mentions if you want to borrow any of mine.
No, I've got plenty I can mention. I just, you guys are getting so nerdy. I feel like I'm just on the surface, kind of in the shallow end, and you guys are in the deep end. I feel bad.
Yeah.
You can go with stuff like Power Station, Robert Palmer and what's his face from Duran Duran.
Don't worry. You've stolen my number 1, Jeffrey, but go ahead. It's all right.
Oh, you're an 80s guy. Well,
I'm all over the place. I could have brought up Cream. I could. There's a lot of places.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go with Power Station.
All right.
They, I see your Asia, and I'll raise you one. Power Station, because they're both 80s birthed bands. And let's be honest. At that time, you could not get away from. Robert Palmer is probably one of the most underrated, amazing, gifted rock singers of all time. And I know that sounds like a very lofty thing to say, since there's so many people that you could talk about. But if you go back and look at this man's catalog, and he died way, way, way too soon. Just unbelievable material. And the fact that he made an appearance, with John Taylor and a few of the others that I can't remember who was in that band, just phenomenal to me. I have a bunch of Robert Palmer records, and he could pretty much spit on a record. I'd buy it. I mean, it's just everything he did was just beyond amazing for me. You know, and I don't think people talk about him enough. You know, I mean, he passed away in what 2002 or something like that, or
early 2000s,
maybe, or 1999 or something like that. And that was a tough call because I mean, tough for me to hear because you know, I mean, he was around in the 70s. You know, just amazing stuff. So anyway, look him up if you don't know who Robert Palmer is, you kiddies out there.
Yes, look up Sneaking Sally Through the Alley. Yeah, get through just whatever. Like he had just smooth silk voice.
I mean, you'll get an education listening to him singing, and just you know his style was very unlike the Power Station. His style was very I don't know, kind of like blues funk, rock, blues funk pop or something, and it just was. Nobody's recreated that. Nobody's done anything like that since, in my opinion. Not really.
Well, fortunately, I've got.
That's my third, and I'm sticking with it.
I'll shift away from my. I'll have a new number one now, but I love that call. And you had Tony Thompson on drums, and Andy Taylor on guitars. You had two Duran Duran, a member of Chic, and then Robert Palmer.
Right. I couldn't remember who else was in the band, but Robert Palmer is all I cared about, really.
Yes.
Now, my wife, all she cares about is John Taylor. If I got to hear another damn John Taylor story from her.
Well, he was it's John Taylor still looks the same as he did in the 80s. I want what he's drinking. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
he looks good.
All right, well, Jim, over to you for your numero uno.
So my number one is a band that is so iconic at this point that it's easy to forget that it is a supergroup, in my opinion. That's Led Zeppelin. Jimmy Page actually came from the Yardbirds. Robert Plant and John Bonham both came from Band of Joy. And they just, these amazing musicians just came together and made this incredible band that made one of the best bands of the 70s for sure. And just, I never get tired of them. I'll tell you that I love all their albums. 4 I could listen to all day long and never get tired of it. But yeah, love Zepp. And no question that, they cut their teeth on other bands, but there's no question that they ended up where they belonged and made some sweet musical beauty. So that's my number one.
All right. No one's going to argue with Zeppelin.
You took
pretty hard to argue with Zepp. I know. I'm picking controversial choices here, but going to make the controversial statement that Zeppelin's a good band.
Yeah,
that's so. Yeah, you're really living on the edge there, buddy.
Yeah, I like to go out on a limb like that.
We got some of their CDs up there behind Eddie going on right now. Yeah. So, Power Station. Just to build on very quickly what Jeffrey said. I mean, you lock in with that rhythm section with John Taylor, very underappreciated bass player, and Tony Thompson, a beast on the drums. Everything Jeffrey said about Robert Palmer, I'll second that. And Andy Taylor, he to me is he's the key ingredient of Duran Duran. Without his spiky funk, he has such that chic influence, that Nile Rodgers style.
Without sounding, I don't know, kind of trite, I guess. But I think he's probably the best musician in that band. I mean, from a musician perspective, he does seem to hold that band together.
I love it.
Because a lot of their stuff is sequencers and stuff, and Duran Duran, and he adds a real live element. Anyway, he's a great bass player, but I would love to be as underrated as him. So I don't think he's that underrated, to be honest.
He always got my vote in the Rolling Stone polls back then. So when everyone was voting for, who's the big bass player? Flea. Everyone voted for Flea, but I voted for John Taylor.
That's because, Flea's great, but he's
no doubt. You can't argue with it, but
they're not even in the same universe. Yeah, I mean,
Well, so I'm just going to rattle off. Since we got my number one, I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of all the. And this is going to make for a better playlist when this episode goes up. So I'm going to throw in the Drams, which the one no one's ever heard of. This is for me, but the Drams. I brought them up on a previous show. They were an offshoot of Slobberbone, Texas band, and they got together.
I was going to say that. I have no idea who that is.
No one does. It's funny. But they got together 2 guys from even more obscure Budapest One, and they just made a great a pop alt country album. I highly recommend Jubilee Dive. Great album. Black Country Communion. You got Glenn Hughes, Jason Bonham, and Joe Bonamassa. Temple. I'm surprised you didn't bring either of these guys up, Jim. Northwest, Mad Season, or Temple of the Dog. Great super groups from the 90s.
Temple of the Dog would definitely be an honorable mention for me.
Keeping it in the 2000s, Dead Weather. You got Jack White, and he's got members of the Kills and Queens of the Stone Age. Speaking of Queens of the Stone Age, them Crooked Vultures with John Paul Jones from Zeppelin and Dave Grohl and Josh Homme from Queens. Cream, of course, going way back to the original, one of the original super groups with Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker, and Jack Bruce. Wilburys, Velvet Revolver. And keeping with the Velvet Revolver, we're going to bring up John Taylor again. Very under the radar band. They were like the house band at the Viper Room in LA. They played once a week there. They had blossomed into an album. The Neurotic Outsiders with John Taylor on bass, Sex Pistols Steve Jones, and Matt Sorum from the Cult and Guns N' Roses, and also Duff McKagan.
I got one for you. You brought up the Viper Room. Here's another one to add to your list: the Hollywood Vampires.
They were next out of my mouth. I love it. This is why we bring people on, folks. They're smart people.
You know, Bruce Whitkin. He was the bass player. He played with Adam Ant, and I actually was in a band with him for a little while.
Nice.
While he was in the Vampires with Johnny Depp and Joe Perry and those guys. So I kind of got to know a couple of those guys.
Adam Ant needs to get into a super group, do something. He's just too much fun. But I
was never really a fan of Adam Ant when in the 80s. It was not my thing. Just a little too, I don't know.
A little too campy?
Yeah, that's the word, campy. But, his rhythm section was pretty damn good.
Oh, good God, that double drum. But let's not get me going on Adam Ant. We saw him earlier this year, and he's slowing down a little bit. He's still doing some turns. He's doing all right, and still got the two drums. I love that. But there's our Threefer, folks, and then some. And but now we are going to create our own super group with vocal.
Can I be in it?
Absolutely. You can be like you're the house keyboard player for this, Jeffrey. Absolutely.
I just want to help set it up. I want to be there. I want to be part of it.
Well, right. You're going to be on keyboards. Who would you have as your lead vocalist?
Lead vocalist? Oh, of all time. Lead vocals. Wow. It depends on the style of music we're going to create. But who is my favorite? Well, I mentioned Robert Palmer. To me, he's phenomenal. Let me think of another one, though. That's Freddie Mercury.
There you go. Can't ever go wrong with Fred.
Yeah. Freddie Mercury, or even Paul Rogers.
Oh.
So those are my three picks: Robert Palmer, or Freddie Mercury, or Robert Palmer as or Paul Rogers, I should say, as my three potential singers that I have I would call. All right.
So who are you putting on your lead and rhythm guitars?
For guitar, we got to go with Steve Lukather.
Can't go wrong with Luke.
Just covers every bass you could possibly throw at him. Fantastic. I mean, I'm always in awe of his playing. I could watch, or David Gilmour. Him and David Gilmour are the two guitar players. I know they're nothing like each other, but they're two guitar players I could just listen to all day long and not feel ear fatigue from listening to them. So much creativity coming out of their rigs. So we mentioned bass now.
We're on to the bass guitar. Yes.
Sting. Can you imagine him in a band where he's not the lead singer, but he is singing backup?
Yep.
That'd be amazing.
Would his ego allow it? That's the question.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It would be the Sting project, of course, but
yes.
Nonetheless.
Well, he took over the Police. He can take over another band.
I'm a monster Sting fan. I've always been, even around the Police time. That's when I discovered him, of course. But have followed his career forever. He's one of those people that there's a few people in my bucket list that I would have liked to have met and worked with. Paul McCartney, Sting, these people are on my list. I'm still working on it.
Well,
it's a long road.
You put him on. He's your bass player in your super group. Maybe he catches wind of that. You can meet him up at Pappy and Harriet's or something.
Yeah.
For a jam session. All right, so you're on keyboards. Is there anyone else that you would want to be jamming back and forth keyboard wise with?
Yeah. Let's see. Leon Russell. One of my favorite all time. Unfortunately, these guys are gone, but Leon Russell, Billy Preston. Period. I mean, I wouldn't even want to touch a keyboard around Billy Preston. I mean, I just do it, Billy. To me, that guy is. I've learned a lot from him, and Leon Russell as well. I mean, these are two of my favorite keyboard players of all time.
Yes.
And then if you want to talk about someone who's alive today, who falls into that category of my favorite of all time that I would pick is Bruce Hornsby. I know they're very different styles, but in the most basic fundamental keyboard, just looking at piano and their skill set, Bruce Hornsby and Billy Preston and Leon Russell, they all have very, very strong piano chops. Beyond all their funk and other things that they do, the bluegrass and the stuff that Leon Russell was bringing to the party, but they all have very, very, very fundamental piano chops, just like Billy Joel or Elton John.
There's a reason all three of those guys get called into so many different projects to just be that solid key, no doubt.
Yeah.
And who's on the skins for you?
Steve Ferroni, can't go wrong with that monster. I love Steve Ferroni on everything he's done. Now he's working with the Dirty Knobs.
I was going to say, I saw them this summer, and my God, he has so much fun back there on that kit.
Yeah. I've met him a couple times, and he's the sweetest man. He's just a great guy. And moving on for drums, let's see. Let me think. Drums. It's hard because you can think about anyone, alive or not. So it's a big list, and I'm sure whatever I say is going to be like, damn, I could have said something else. I mean, we always can look at guys. Oh, I know, Simon Phillips.
Another guy who's solid across whatever band that he gets pulled into.
He becomes he's like a chameleon. Amazing drummer. And then Simon Phillips, of course, and Omar Hakim is another amazing guy. So
he was brought. He was my number 2 drummer of all time when we had our drum show earlier this year. Second only to Stuart Copeland for me.
Oh God, Stuart too. Jeez, yeah, of course. Oh wow, I could go on and on.
So. Wait, we could. I like your super group. We're gonna get that assembled. We'll have the playlist off of that one. Assembled.
Make it happen, Eric.
Oh, I'll hodgepodge. I'll Frankenstein it much like Eddie Van Halen did his guitars. So,
yeah.
Right, Jim. Over to you. Take it away with your super group.
Okay, so yeah, now that I've created this fully functional Superior battle station, my goal with this band would be to bring back the era of 70s rock, the 6 or 7 minute long songs, and that just had epic musicianship all the way through. So for lead singer, I'm gonna pick Eric Burden from the Animals. Amazing vocalist. I mean, listen to House of the Rising Sun, just fantastic. And he would be perfect on I think just about any song you can come up with. And apologies ahead of time if I butcher any of these last names because I'm a dope. But on keyboard, Ray Manzarek from The Doors.
Okay,
absolutely love it. I really think he was the secret talent behind The Doors. I know Jim gets all the credit, but I think Ray really was the talent behind the talent. He was amazing. I don't think
So if you have Ray, by having Ray there, are you going to have a bass player?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how utilized he'll be, but I would have him for sure. Lead guitar, Jimmy Page. He's amazing. Bass, got to go with John Entwistle from The Who.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can. I mean, he could practically be out there on his own, just playing some of that epic bass and can handle the stage all by himself. And on drums, I got to go with Lars. Just amazingly talented. I am. Yeah. And whatever you want to say about him personally, the guy is absolutely amazingly talented, and he could absolutely keep up with all those guys on drums.
Yeah.
And he would bring in so much drama that the band would be disbanded within a year, but that's neither here nor there. So that's my group. And of course, I could not keep up with any of those guys musically, so I would have to hire myself as a roadie so I could keep up with them.
You could be to be the drum tech for Lars.
I could, yeah, I could do that.
I'm giving you a roadie upgrade. There you go.
I like it. Yep, I like it.
It would be it'd be like Wayne's World for him. When I'm not worthy.
Exactly. That would be me every day. I would never get tired of it.
Well, befitting of the show, the host of All Over the Place. I'm eclectic. Well, I'll let you guys determine how eclectic it is. But on vocals, I'm going with a guy who can do anything it's been thrown in, whether it's opera or rap funk or rock, just wailing out their metal. Mike Patton, who is a member of numerous supergroups himself outside of Faith No More, whether it's Tomahawk or Mr. Bungle. Just this guy's everywhere.
God, Mr. Bungle, remember that? Damn.
So I go with Mike Patton as my lead vocalist.
Yeah. I wasn't a Faith No More fan, though.
I can't deny that I rank Faith No More. There's an argument I get into with a lot of LA people. I pick Faith No More over Jane's Addiction.
Okay, we have words. I think we would have some words on that one. Yeah.
And we're gonna cut. Well, I need to throw a chair. Where's Marty when we need him?
Faith No More. It helps to be a 90s person. That's all I'm gonna say. It helps to be the part of that generation. But
yeah. You have to understand, for me in the 90s, and I'm getting personal here, but I was working on my own band, trying to get a record deal, doing my thing. And I was getting sidelined because of Nirvana and this Seattle thing that was happening. And so the 90s aren't really like a pleasant decade for me, musically speaking. I don't think back on the 90s fondly.
Well, I think you're going to like where I go next for my lead guitarist. He was Jimi Hendrix listed him as the favorite guy he was listening to at the time. The Reverend himself, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. He's my lead guitar. And for rhythm, I'm a guy you mentioned Sting could do some backing vocals. I'm going to go with Prince, another guy who could play any instrument in this band.
See, here's the thing. I'm interrupting you. Prince, first of all, is a virtuoso on every instrument he played. He's amazing. It just not many people are like that. But Billy Gibbons is a fantastic guitar player, but he's kind of a one-trick pony, I mean, he's a blues guitar player. That's what he does. So if you're going to throw a supergroup together, will he be able to do some of that other stuff that maybe I don't know. I don't know.
I like those.
I mean, unless you want that. I mean, you wouldn't bring Billy Gibbons in unless you had some rock and blues going on, because that's what he's known for. That's what he's so good at.
Well, I'm going to skip right to my keyboard player. I'm going to skip over the bass player.
You like I'm arguing with the host.
I'm going to go with Chuck Leavell as my keyboard player.
Yes, the Stones and everyone else.
And Nicky Hopkins, awesome in his own right, but I love Chuck Leavell. He played with the Allmans. He's played with Pearl Jam on occasion, and the Stones over and over. I love Chuck Leavell. Just all right,
you're redeemed.
Yeah, see, I'm back. We're not at odds anymore.
We're talking again.
Yes. He's through now. But I love Chuck and just the way he just lays that keyboard down. Just like it's an organ.
He's
keyboard.
Great.
Chuck's playing it. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and he's my keyboard player. For I'm just do the rhythm section together. They were brought up earlier. The Power Station guys, Tony Thompson on drums, and I want John Taylor. So we can do a little rock. We can do some funk. We can blues it down a little bit when we need to. There's my band. There's my super group.
Wow.
And I forgot to mention earlier in my super groups with the honorable mentions, got to go with the Highwaymen.
Oh,
yeah, I'm an outlaw country guy, and those are my guys.
Yep. R.I.P. Chris Christopherson.
Johnny Whalen, and Willie.
Yeah.
Good times.
So how deep do you go down the country road? Pun
I
intended.
don't. I mean, I outlaw stuff. I mean, I liked Mac Davis back. Mac Davis 8-tracks is what my dad.
Man,
and,
you're going to make a lot of people go, who the hell are these old guys? Mac Davis. Wow. Remember the Mac Davis variety show? Holy crap.
I remember it well. That was on in the house. And Roy
what was
Clark.
I, 7?
I was about where I was, 4 or 5. But yeah, Roy Clark on Hee Haw. My dad always said, there's your great guitar player. Glenn Campbell, there's a great guitar player. That's how I got introduced to that stuff. But I like outlaw country, this Nashville pop country stuff, or as Hank Williams III calls it, Trashville. That's my.
Yeah.
I love Hank III. I love Shooter Jennings.
It's basically just pop rock from the 80s.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I need to be a little nasty. And Hank III is not playing anymore, but he had some great stuff. And I'm glad Shooter Jennings, who's experimental with a whole different. He's all over the place genre wise. He does Giorgio Moroder tribute projects as the son of Waylon Jennings. Shooter's awesome.
That's interesting. And
Shooter actually, a little quick plug here for Shooter Jennings, friend of our friend Zach Selwyn. He's got an album coming out with James Woods. James Woods does the spoken words. Yeah, he's doing the spoken word stuff, and Shooter Jennings supplies the music behind it.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
James Woods has been doing some interesting stuff these days. Did you know that he produced Oppenheimer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kept under the radar, yes. Because
he was one of the producers on that. And he was a quiet producer for a long time. But yeah. So $1 billion movie. He was a quiet producer on that.
I have to go back to your Power Station references with John Taylor. There's been an honorable mention that we would be remiss if we did not mention. And all of us would be very sad and be ashamed of ourselves to not mention Trevor Horn. You know, I mean, a lot of those groups were around because of him. You know,
yes, wouldn't have had that comeback.
Yes, would not. Yes, probably would have just disappeared into the 70s, because of Trevor Horn is another big hero of mine. And a lot of people don't know who he is in America. He's not really that well known among the mainstream, but he's well known for, as you guys I'm sure know, for everything that we love about the 80s, pretty much in that era.
The mastermind behind one of my, it's in my top, I would say top 10 easily. It might even break top 5. Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Trevor Horn brought that together.
Yeah. Well, that Human League, I mean, you can go on and on, all the different bands that he was involved with. He's worked with Annie Lennox. He's done, it just goes on and on and on. And he's a bass player. So can he be in somebody's supergroup? It would be produced amazingly well, I'm telling you.
Well, if you want to kick Sting out of your band, I mean, that's up to you.
No, I don't know. It depends on how much he's fighting us.
Yeah, I think that it might be good revenge for just in general, just for Sting to be kicked out of a band would damage his ego beyond repair.
No,
we're trying to be nice here on all over the place, folks. We like Sting, we love Sting through the years, and Jeffrey, Bryan, we love you for coming back. Thanks for joining us again. Looking forward to the K-Tel All-Stars here in the desert when you guys are back in a couple of weeks. And be sure you check it out. I've got the ticker running there, folks. The KTelAllstars.com. Keep up to speed with everything over there. Jeffrey, Bryan, thanks again for joining us here on All Over the Place.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back real soon on YouTube and Spotify. Thanks for sharing, liking, and subscribing, folks.
Say hi to Christine.
Absolutely. Christine, Jeffrey says hi.
Thank you.
All right. Cool, man. Take care, everybody. We'll be back real soon.
All over the place, where the fun sanity never ends.